Resumed. Chair would like to acknowledge the presence of Chairman Brillantes, Commissioners Yusuf, Tagle, Lim, and Pereño, Maybaba, and the entire COMELEC family. Mr. Chairman, you're recognized, and if you want someone to make the presentation on your behalf, you may do so. Good morning, sir.
Just a short opening remark. We came here, we are prepared to present our budget, and we are sure that the committee will have an open heart. The committee will have an open heart
Surgery?
in considering our budget, only because we have an engagement with Anyway, Your Honor, let me just say that we did ask for quite a
Mr. Chair, I think the chairman today is in a loving mood, kaya tingin ko wala akong problema budget nyo.
Buong linggo lang to, ah.
You know, we actually presented to the DBM a budget quite substantial. However, it was downgraded to only 16.9 billion. Let me just say that what we asked for is over 30 billion. It was downgraded to about 16.9, which after discussions with the DBM, we find it acceptable in the sense that we will be able to make it, considering that we have a few savings that we can realign so that we can augment whatever we would need for the 2016 elections. What is important to point out, Your Honors, is that while we are only in 2014, most of our preparations will be done in 2015. That is why the budget for 2015 is a very, very important budget. The 2016 budget would only be the winding up. The entire preparation for the 2016 elections will be done in the 2015, which means that we shall be closing all of our preparations by the end of 2015, and all that we have to do in 2016 is prepare for the implementation of the elections for May 2016. So let me just say that having accepted the 16.9 billion as proposed by the DBM, a reading of this budget would show only on one important aspect. The rest, we don't have any debate. We talk our regular programming is okay. We're asking for 2.8, it was given. The rest of the expenses is okay. What we have to debate on is what machine do we have to make use of.
You're going to decide today, right?
We cannot decide.
Supposedly.
Supposedly, we were supposed to decide even earlier than today. However, the COMELEC Advisory Council came out with the recommendation only very lately, so that we still are in the process of debating up to now. Whether we have three alternatives. Our own proposal, when we proposed over 30 billion budget, was that we wanted to have all brand new machines. However, the proposal, when it was lowered to 16.9, if we will read the budget as proposed, it will now be a combination or a mix, which means that it would need the use of the old machines, about 80,000 or 81,000 to be exact. Plus, we have to make use of additional, considering the increase in the registration, considering that we have to solve the queuing problem, such that we might have to lower the clustering from the 1,000 which we used in 2010 and 2013 to about 600, to ensure that there will be no long lines anymore in the 2016 elections.
Question, Mr. Chairman. You mean to say by lowering your proposed budget from 35 to 16, effectively the decision on what technology to use has been made for you?
That is correct, Mr.
Would that be a correct
Chairman.
statement?
In effect, they said, with this, it has to be a combination or a mix.
In effect, they said, use the machines that you have.
Yes, we don't want to refer to the machines that we have. We call this the existing ones, which we purchased in 2012 and which we used in 2010 originally under a lease, and then we used in 2013 after we exercised the option.
The option to buy.
That's correct.
But when you exercise the option to buy as well, doesn't it stand to reason na gamitin na rin natin sa susunod na election?
That is correct, Your Honor. In fact, I made a previous statement already when we purchased it in 2012 that we can make use of these existing machines even for another elections or even one more up to 2019.
Okay.
But we felt that considering the publicity, that there are so many glitches, deficiencies, we thought that it would be best for purposes of at least making sure that there will be no issues anymore raised, that we could use a totally brand new machines for the entire 80,000 or 81,000. However, considering that the budget has already been discussed, it was the suggestion of the executive that we go and make use of the old ones, the existing ones, and buy additional for the additional registration and for the additional in case of the lowering of the clustering to 600. So this is what is in the budget right now, more of a mix.
We will go to that in greater details.
Now we further got the recommendation already of the COMELEC Advisory Council, and apparently they have exactly the same thinking. They said they recommended that we use the OMR as the technology to be used and add additional OMR so that it would jive with each other. And then they just added the fact that they wanted to make use of a new technology, but only on a pilot basis, so that we can make use forward-looking, according to them. We can just go on a pilot on a DRE or any other technology, but only on a pilot. So this is what is now under study before the Commission and Bank. We either go as what we originally envisioned, all new, or a mix as proposed under our budget and as recommended by the CAC, and a technology which will be piloted so that we can look forward for possible change of technology when we look to future elections like 2019 or 2022. So our entire budget, let me just point out, Your Honor, that we don't have much issue between the 16.9 billion that we will use for our regular programming, which is about 2.8, plus all the others. The only main problem here is we were given only a budget of 10.3 for purposes of the hardware. The hardware means the machine that we're going to use. This 10.3 will fit in only if we use the existing ones, which is about 81,000, and we will purchase an additional 41,000 machines to make it 121.
To accommodate the smaller clusters.
To accommodate the
600
600
Yeah.
clustering, that's correct.
Can you proceed, Mr. Chair?
So we suggest we ask our Director of Finance, Attorney Lea Alarcon, to present to us the summary of our entire
Madam
budget.
Director, can you present it in its abbreviated form since we have the hard copies anyway?
With your permission, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Your Honors. We are from the Commission on Elections, and we present to you the National Expenditure Program of the COMELEC for the year 2015. Your Honor, please. This is an overview of the National Expenditure Program for 2015 of the Commission on Elections with the budget breakdown for the 2014 GAA. For the 2015 NEP, we have for PS 2,038,162,000 pesos, MOOE of 621,575,000 pesos, and this year we have a provision for capital outlay in the amount of 195,604,000 pesos. Total budget for the regular program is 2,855,341,000 pesos. For our locally funded projects, Your Honor, we were given 14,088,759,000 pesos. The total national expenditure program of the Commission on Elections is 16,944,100,000 pesos. Your Honor, please, before we proceed with the discussion of the 2015 NEP, allow us to present first the status of the 2013 continuing appropriations of the COMELEC, which as of June 2014, there is a balance of 2.9 billion pesos. This has been allocated for the construction of COMELEC field offices and or their buildings, their consumption for utilities, and their capital outlays or PPEs. As provided in the overview, the capital outlay for this year is 225,524,000 pesos, and it is provided for the ISSP 220 million, the Office of Foreign Overseas Voters 1 million, lot 2 million, and the COMELEC warehouse for 3 million. It is obvious from the foregoing, Your Honors, that the 3 million allotment for the COMELEC warehouse is not enough, let alone in the construction of the COMELEC main office building. Thus, the Commission incorporated a budget proposal in its capital outlay in its regular program, a provision for the construction of COMELEC main office. There is a provision for capital outlay in the 2015 NEP, but only for a budget of 195 million, which is for office equipment, furnitures and fixtures, motor vehicles, the PPEs, and other IT equipment only. Aside from the non-provision for the construction of the COMELEC main office, there are 5 locally funded projects proposed by the Commission which were not included in the NEP. And they are the resumption of the continuing registration expenses for the Office of the Foreign Overseas Voters, the resumption of the continuing registration, a budget for the Bangsamoro plebiscite, charter change, and recall elections. On the other hand, there were 5 locally funded projects that were approved. They are the continuation of the program of the ISSP, systems development for the Finance Services Department, the Sangguniang Kabataan elections, and the Sangguniang Kabataan registration, and finally, Your Honors, provision for the preparatory national and local election in the amount of 12,642,880,000 pesos. So, Your Honors, this is a budget breakdown of the regular program of the Commission on Elections. Again, as mentioned, there are 5 locally funded projects that are provided in the NEP. They are the SK registration, the SK elections, the systems development for the FSD, the continuation of the programs of the ISSP, and the preparatory activities for the 2016 synchronized national and local elections. For the SK registration, the Commission was provided with a budget of 155,167,000 pesos. For the SK elections, the Commission was provided with a NEP of 936,129,000 pesos. For the ISSP, the Commission is provided with an MOOE budget of 295,793,000 pesos. And for the FSD Systems Development, 58,790,000 pesos. The bulk of the budget for the locally funded projects is provided for the preparatory activities of the national and local elections, with a budget breakdown of, for personal services, 286,649,000, MOOE 920,231,000, capital outlay of 11,436,000,000 pesos, for a total of 12,642,880,000 pesos. So what, Your Honors, are to be charged on the 11,436,000 pesos PNLE budget, or preparatory national and local election budget? As may be seen in the matrix prepared by the PM of the Commission on Elections, the provision is enough for the 5th option in the said matrix, that is 10,392,000,000 plus the 1,044,000,000 provision for biometrics machine. The breakdown of the 10,392,000,000 is the cost of hardware, or cost of new hardware, is 3,762,000,000, and other cost of 6,630,000,000. The breakdown of the other costs are the following: expenses for warehousing and its configuration facilities, voter education, the project management office with integration, the National Support Center, the technical support, training for technical support, transmission services, ballots, ballot boxes, the Technical Evaluation Committee, the deployment and retrieval services, consumables for old machines, the consolidated canvassing system and the refurbishment of the COMELEC-owned machines. With that, Your Honor, we conclude our presentation of the 2015 NEP, and we hope for your kind consideration of the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Director. Chair would now like to acknowledge Senator Soto for his interventions. Senator Soto, you recognized, sir. Good morning. You may
Thank you.
proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Chairman Brillantes, the commissioners of the COMELEC, other officials. Good morning to you. I just have one question. I don't have a question with your budget, actually. I have no problem with it. I have been following your budget officer, and I think quite clear. I just need one answer from you. In the 2013 elections, during and before, COMELEC came up with a policy declaring that each candidate is allowed 120 minutes per station. I want to know how you got to that policy, because it's not in the law. I am a co-author of the law. During the debates on the floor of when we passed that law, we made sure that it would be very limited. We wanted to lift the odd man because there was a clamor for it, but we wanted it tapered. Hindi katulad nung nangyari. So may we know what is the basis for that policy, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman. Actually, the decision that we made is in a formal resolution which we passed, and we interpreted the provision of the law as meaning that it should cover an aggregate instead of the per station. That has always been the debate. In previous elections, in the previous COMELEC and bank resolved to go on the per station. However, during our own discussions of the provisions of the law, we thought that it was an aggregate that was really the intendment, because it cannot be that we will allow a per station allow for campaign expenses or campaign in the media because of the limitation in the campaign finance law. Since the campaign finance law limits it to about 3 pesos per voter, for registered voter, we cannot open it up to all stations at 120 minutes per station. And that would actually allow, it would not be consumed anyway because of the limitation at 3 pesos.
But that was not what happened in 2013 elections.
That's correct. No, in 2013, there was no limitation, only because of the intervention of the Supreme Court, which means, well, we had a resolution that we interpreted it to be aggregate of 120 in all TV and all radio stations. This was
Correct,
not really
which was the
implemented.
intention, and you were right, that was the intention of the law.
That's correct, but the Supreme Court intervened. They issued the TRO because the media went to the Supreme Court, and they
issued the TRO, and what is the status now of the TRO, Mr. Chairman?
Well, the TRO was effective until election day, which means that we were not able to implement our resolution because of the TRO, which means, and up to now, the merits of that petition has not been resolved as yet. In fact, only I think about a month ago where we asked that it be resolved, and we intend to file another motion for the early resolution of that issue. Because
Yes,
this is very important that
Chairman,
this should be
yes.
resolved.
Thank you. Yes, we will expect that, because obviously the journal of the Senate debates is your best evidence. The intention of the law, the authors, the sponsors, and the way we pass the law. Paano nag-interpret ang Supreme Court ng 120 minutes per station? I'm sure they did. They just issued the TRO, di po ba? Okay.
Well, yeah, because the petitioners there were the media, the big networks.
Palagay ko dapat pong ipaglaban ninyo sapagkat lahat, pag pinayagan yan, violation na lahat sa 3 pesos per candidate.
Tama ho yan. That's our
Lampas na agad eh.
interpretation.
Oo.
And we felt then na sana ma-implement na namin, bigla na lang naglabas ng TRO ang Supreme Court. So, hindi na ho namin na-implement actually. We just left it as is, but now we're very, very strict in the implementation of the SOSE. Kasi dyan ho namin makokontrol yung mga sumobra eh. Kaya may tinamaan na eh. May tinatamaan na nag-overspend because of the use of campaign advertising.
Thank you, thank you. Kasi it definitely defeats the purpose of that, no? Gusto natin silang pagbigyan, nilift yung ad ban.
Kasi ho yung previous commissions eh, sila ho nagkaroon ng interpretation na per station before eh. So we changed that altogether for 2013 because of our own. I think the correct interpretation is it should be aggregate.
Yes, correct. You're
And
absolutely
I
right.
think the Supreme Court will be able to sustain, will sustain us after reading the position that we have taken.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Soto. Senator Soto, you are excused to attend the other hearing. You are excused so that you can attend the other hearing. Senator Nancy. Chair recognizes Senator Nancy for her interventions.
Morning po. Katulad ho nung nabanggit nyo kanina, di ba, parang yung, ito ho bang budget na to, medyo nalilimit yung suppliers na pwedeng pagpilian ng COMELEC? Yung provider.
Oh, well, in a sense, dahil sa OMR, ang rinirekomenda ho nila is we use the existing, the old ones. Tapos the new one, siyempre ho, ayaw naman namin na masyadong diverse o masyadong diferensya doon sa old. If we will use the mix, dapat ho medyo magsasabayan.
So mas malaki ho ang chance na Smartmatic ulit ho ang ating gagamitin?
Yun din ho ang tanong ko doon sa CAC, sa aming COMELEC Advisory Council. Nung rinikomenda nila that we use the OMR, the old, and we add new. Sabi ko, hindi ba merong undue advantage? Undue pa nga ang ginamit ko. Undue advantage yung Smartmatic. Sabi nila, hindi naman. Meron naman
Is it possible that we use the OMR machines we used in 2010 and 2013, but someone else other than Smartmatic will operate it?
Yes, that is possible. Pwede ho.
Because we bought the machines, right?
That's correct.
Only the machines,
The hardware, that's correct. Yeah. Including
not the software.
And the software, hindi ho.
Hindi. So it's possible that another company other than Smartmatic would win in whatever processes you have.
And make use of the hardware itself
Yes.
and then come out with its own software.
Yes.
Oo. Pero iaayusin lang ho yung hardware to be compatible with its
What are
software.
the chances?
Pwede ho naman, meron naman. We expect that if we go into a bidding for the additional, no? Kasi pinag-uusapan nun natin mix eh. If we go into the additional, anybody who will bid in the additional will have to make sure na pwede rin niyang gawin doon sa 80,000 na existing.
With the permission of Senator Nancy, just to clarify the point, nung in-award natin sa Smartmatic yan noong 2010, I know you were not yet there, Mr. Chairman. Nung in-award yan sa kanila, di ba they provided the machines? The hardware and the software with an option to buy.
Oh.
So itong makinan to, Smartmatic ang gumawa.
Sila ho nag-manufacture, although there was a joint venture with the Dominion.
Whatever, pero sila akong nag...
Yung
from
software
our
ho
point of view-
Dominion, yung hardware sa Smartmatic ho.
So all the more, Smartmatic nga ang gumawa nung hardware.
Yung hardware, tama ho.
Na later on, binili natin.
In 2012.
So nagka-problema ang Smartmatic po at Dominion, di ba?
Correct, after we purchased.
After you purchased. So my question is, in what way will Smartmatic have an advantage given those circumstances na sila naman pala nag-manufacture ng hardware eh?
Oh well, kasi yung gagamitin natin na additional is dapat halos pareho nung luma eh. Para hindi ho tayo
So may advantage ang Smartmatic dun sa new.
New, kasi sila ho
Equipment.
ang gumawa ng luma, dapat hindi masyadong ang difference. Hindi dapat masyadong malaki. In fact, if we will go over the CAC recommendations, sinasabi nila OMR dito sa old, OMR sa new, pero dapat magkakaroon ng...
If the total number of machines was roughly 81,000 and you will be getting 40,000 new machines, so if you're talking 56 million, 2/3 of that will be OMR and 1/3 of that will be the new machines.
Correct. OMR din ho.
OMR din.
Ah.
Anong logic ho nung OMR din kung, as you said, pampilot na natin to eh? Para sa...
Hindi ho. Ang rekomendasyon ng CAC is OMR muna, OMR yung old. OMR yung new, yung additional. Tapos magpapilot lang ng DRE, which
For
is a
future
new technology.
reference.
Forward looking for new.
Sa OMR na nga tayo ngayon.
OMR, sa 2016, ang recommendation ng CAC is OMR lahat.
OMR na nga lahat.
Oh,
Kung binigay sa inyo yung 35 billion, would you have had the option?
we could have gone into a totally
New
brand
system.
new system or brand new OMR na isa lang ang magsusupply para pare-pareho lahat.
So as I said, so given the fact that your dream sequence of 35 billion was not given, effectively nga, the decision on what technology to use has been made for you.
Oh, pero yung hindi ho naman 35, yung 18 billion lang talaga kailangan namin for all new. 18 billion
Pero
lang.
ang binigay ko
nila
sa inyo, 12 billion.
10.3 for the hardware. Oh.
10.3. So wala nga, when that decision was made, na 10.3 lang instead of 18, the decision for you to use OMR was also made for you. Essentially.
Essentially, but we have certain options also because we have some money on the side na pwede naman namin nung gamitin kung kailangan namin brand new lahat. But then came the CAC recommendation, which is practically the same thing. They wanted to use the OMR for the old, OMR for the new. So parang na yun na lang kung
Nag-jive lang
debate namin
kumbaga.
ngayon.
Nag-jive nga yung rekomendasyon na lahat yung budget na binigay sa inyo.
Tama ho yun.
Senator Nancy?
Chairman, sino ho yung composition ng CAC?
If I may answer that, the chairman is.
For the record, Commissioner Lim, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. The chairman is Undersecretary Louis Casambre of the ICTO, DOST. Members are from the private sector, George Quintanar. Romel Feria, Professor Romel Feria of UP. From DepEd is Undersecretary Alberto Muyot. Also, Assistant Secretary Raymond Leboro of the OST. From Lente, Rona Caritos. I'm sorry, I'm not exactly. From the Philippine Computer Emergency Response Team, Angel S. Averia Jr. From PPCRV, John Paul C. Vergara. From Lente is Rona Ann Caritos. That's basically the composition, Your Honor.
And they all signed the recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor, we have a copy of the completely signed.
It's unanimous.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, can we get a copy of the
Kindly submit, sir. Maybe instruct the secretary to kindly secure a copy. Just a copy.
Yes,
Of the
Your Honor.
resolution.
We will.
Thank you, sir.
Pero katulad din ho na sabi niya, Chairman, sabi niya, pwedeng hindi rin Smartmatic. Can you offhand name other potential bidders aside from Smartmatic?
The CAC itself conducted what is known as a technology fair. May na-participate din ho doon. In fact, there are others that wants to go into the OMR na iba, hindi necessarily yung Smartmatic hardware. So kaya lang since we're going to use the old Smartmatic hardware already under the setup, ang magiging rekomendasyon ng CAC is that kung gagamitin nyo yan, make sure na yung additional will actually jive with the old. Para isa lang ho, kasi isa lang ho yung consolidated canvassing system. Kailangan yun ang gagamitin para sa dalawa. Para ho hindi hiwalay.
Option ba ho sa COMELEC if I remember right, parang sa mga press release nyo, you said that you can sell the old machines. Tama ho ba?
Oh, in fact, we already created a committee for disposal. Appraisal and disposal committee. With the
Magkano-
intention of selling it out. Kaya lang
Magkano ho siya, if ever?
Mababa ho yung rekomendasyon ng committee. So halos scrap na.
Mga more or less, can you give a
Kalahat,
figure
wala pa 1 billion.
for all the machines?
For
no?
all the 81 existing ones.
Mga 1 million lang siya.
Wala pa ho. Kalahati. Kalahating
1 million, 1 billion.
billion.
1
Kalahating
billion.
billion.
1 billion. So pwede rin another scenario is you will sell the old machines, tapos katulad nga ho ng sinasabi nyo, parang may savings ho kayo na pwede ding pagkunan para mabili ho, para ang gamitin ho for 2016 are all new machines.
Pwede rin ho yun, pero hindi lang ho namin sigurado kung aabot yung aming savings plus the cost of the disposal. That's what we are now undertaking. We're trying to determine whether we can effectively go into an all brand new. And remember, if we go on all brand new, ang gagawin ho namin dito is the 121,000 na machines na puro bago. Kasi we want really the 600, the clustering down to 600 where we would need about 1 to 1 machines, 1 to 1,000 machines. So napakalaki ng cost. 18 billion nga akong kailangan eh. So compared to the 10 under the mix, ang difference you have almost 8 billion eh. Baka mahirapan ho kami kumuha nun.
Siguro, Mr. Chair, the committee can further study baka there's a need to increase the budget of the COMELEC.
We will look into that, Your Honor.
Diba, I think we cannot afford to have a questionable 2016 presidential election.
Definitely.
Diba? Moving on naman ho, I think nabanggit nyo ho na parang may voters orientation. Tama ho ba, di ba? Coming from the 2013 election, alam nyo, napakahirap po nung compliance dyan sa SOSE. Meron ho ba kayong budget na parang merong orientation din ho pagdating dun sa compliance sa SOSE para naman ho sa mga kandidato? I don't know.
Sana
Mr.
matuto
Chair,
na sila.
kung kayo ho ay napadalan din ng ng sulat ng COMELEC for
Lahat ho pinadalanan.
non-compliance.
Lahat ho na tumakbo at lahat.
Hindi violation
Maski
yung
mga natalo,
underspending, di ba?
Hindi ho. Underspending yun ho pinakamagaling na mangyari. Pero actually ho, yung SOSE, I think what we're coming out with, we have the only problem that happened in SOSE is we have had resolutions already long before. Ang mahirap lang nangyari, parang na-disregard din, di ba? Hindi masyado napapansin. 1 year before the 2013 elections, we already have the resolutions. Kaya lang mukhang hindi napapansin.
Ako, Chairman, more of parang teaching the candidates or siguro yung mga sa staff man lang, yung ano ba talaga yung kinakailangan doon sa SOSE. Kasi based from my experience yung nung nag-submit, di ba, let's say ang deadline ho was Friday. Ako ho, nag-submit ng Tuesday. Tapos pagdating ho namin doon, sabi doon sa kung saan kayo magsasubmit, sabi, kulang, may mga kulang sa fine. Kinomply ho namin yung mga kulang. I think nagsubmit ako, let's say Wednesday or Thursday. Hindi ko ho talaga pinaabot ng Friday para ho to have more room for baka pag-submit, may kulang na naman ulit, diba? So, nung sinabit ko siya ng Thursday, tinanggap naman ho. So, ako bilang kandidato, I assumed na wala nang kulang dun sa sinabit ko. Tapos, after a few weeks or after a few days, meron na ho akong penalty. So, hindi ko lang matandaan kung magkano yung binayad ko. Kasi nga, apparently, kulang pa din pala ho yung sinabit ko. Pagdating
Tama
ko dun sa implementation or
Siguro si Commissioner Lim, Commissioner Botin, he is the chairman of our campaign finance unit. Siya ang makakapagpaliwanag.
Siguro po, Your Honor, we will look into educating the political parties in compliance. Kahit on the part of the COMELEC, medyo nabigla din yung COMELEC na hindi namin in-expect ganito din yung with the personnel were also not really trained, no? In fact, that's what we were exerting effort in 2013 to train the personnel. But now it's probably going to 2016 is more of an outreach, training the candidates as well as the stakeholders on campaign finance.
Kung tatandaan nyo, Madam Senator, kung ang deadline ho ng filing ng SOSE is 1 month after the elections, which means that should be June 13 of 2013. But we were so relaxed that maski ho lahat nag-submit na, review namin, we gave them a chance to make a correction, rectification, and inayos na namin hanggang June 30 ngayong taon, which means over a month, over a year, so that you can make the corrections. So medyo mabait pa nga ho kami. Sa 2016, hindi na ho kami mabait.
Hindi, parang I think ko kasi nangyari, parang kahit nag-file kayo, kung kulang, considered late filing. Tama ho ba?
Tama ho yun.
Tama ho. So,
Kung mali yung pinal nyo, parang hindi kayo nag-file.
yun na nga ho. So, nagkaroon ng fine.
ng
But,
fine.
yun na nga ho nung nagsabit kami nung una, may kulang. Tapos we corrected it. Nung nagsabit kami next time, wala namang comment. So I assumed noon na okay na.
Wala na.
Tapos makakakuha na lang ako ng notice na hindi pala ako considered filed kasi may kulang pa pala. So I guess kailangan siguro natin ayusin yung mga ganong issue.
Tama ho yun. We have created already a campaign finance unit which we want to convert into a department para ho talagang exhaustively ma-discuss itong filing ng SOSE. Malaking bagay ho yun. In 2016, magiging maliwanag na ho yun.
Also, perhaps, Mr. Chairman, the rules on what to file specifically. For example, I can speak for my case. There was a discrepancy pointed out to us, but apparently the TV station did not include the VAT since they did not receive the VAT anyway. Hindi nila sinama yung VAT, but when we reported, sinama namin, binayaran namin yun eh. Sinama yung VAT. So nagka-discrepancy tuloy yung nireport ng station na income nila compared dun sa nireport naming expenditure for the particular station. So I hope your guidelines will be that detailed too, na ano yung extent ng i-report ng stations or ng printing. Kasi in our case, that was the reason, that was the situation why there was a seeming discrepancy. Although it was rectified. When you added the VAT, nagtali naman ako eh. But hindi lang maliwanag din siguro sa kanila kung ano yung dapat nilang i-report. Ganon din sa kandidato kung ano specifically yung dapat i-report.
Lessons learned will be implemented in 2016. I'm sure of that. Anyway, si Commissioner Lim ho will be the senior commissioner in 20...
Still on recall, are you transferring on the topic?
Yes. Napansin ko lang ho din sa... Ha? Yun na nga, tatanong ko lang bakit walang budget for recall.
Rather,
Humingi ho kami. We asked for a budget for the 2015 for recall, precisely to cover the absence of any budget for the 2014. Kasi ang recall will be from 2014 up to mid to 2015. Humingi kami nung nagkaroon ng problema about recall. Humingi kami for 2015 pero hindi binigay.
for 2014, you came out with a resolution na hindi pwedeng gamitin yung compatible item found in your 2015 NEP on recall. Dahil MOE lang siya at hindi consider na project.
That is correct.
Will that be correct?
It was part of the program. It was not part of the project. Recall we consider as projects.
Recall you consider as project. Plebiscite you consider as project.
That's correct.
So itong 1.4 billion roughly for recall, plebiscites, para saan po yun?
Para sa PS lang tsaka MOE. Pero yung regular expenses namin for conducting election, recall, referenda.
Kung wala hong project nga for recall and referendum and plebiscite, para saan yun?
Para sa local elections, special elections, para sa...
Local and special elections. Pero wala rin hong project eh. Nakalagay lang ho sa MOE.
These are costs of for the administration, di ba?
No, but why will you have administered sa personnel? Sige po, baka sweldado yun eh. Pero yung MOE, kung wala naman hong project item for recall, for plebiscite, saan ho gagastusin yung 1.4 billion?
Yung provision ho for election, kasi yung provision ng Constitution is elections, recall, plebiscites, referenda. Tandaan nyo, yung election covers the regular elections. Hindi ho pwedeng gamitin yon for elections, for recall purposes.
And for plebiscites.
And for plebiscites. Although, ang difference nga lang ho dito, sa plebiscites ho, hindi kami humihingi ng budget. Kasi ho, ang plebiscite, charge namin doon sa proponent.
Now,
Pwede
we
silang
were
kaso
informed by DBM because I remember inquiring about this too with COMELEC na in the list of provinces and regions, walang 4B because that issue was Palawan, if you remember. 4A lang. And we kept on wondering why. Apparently, DBM informed us that there is a glitch in their system
That's correct.
that hindi tinatanggap yung 4B kahit anong gawin nila. Ay, 4A lang ang tinatanggap. But then again, from DBM's point of view, apparently, we only learned this recently, covered na ng 4A yung 4B. Kasi nga yung system nila, hindi daw tinatanggap. Ewan ko kung gaano kaluma yung sistema nila, na maglagay ng additional line doon. So,
COMELEC ho, wala kaming region 4A or 4B. Isa lang ang region
but
namin,
in the
4B.
budget, it says 4A
Tama
and
yun,
not
that
4B.
covers 4. That covers the entire Region 4.
That's what I wanted to clarify, so it's understood that the
Yes.
4A placed here
Actually covers the entire 4. Region
covers
4.
the entire 4.
Yes. Oo.
Hindi, yung system nga ng DBM daw eh.
In fact, maski na ho ngayon, lumalabas na naman yung 4A.
Actually, 4A na naman yan. The 2015 NEP, 4A na naman, wala na namang 4B eh.
Dapat ho 4 lang yun. Pero meron na kaming proposal to create the 4B.
So even in 2014, ginamit niyo ho yung PS at MOE for 4B as well, for the entire of Region 4.
That's correct. Oh.
That's correct.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Senator Nancy.
Chairman, can you give us an update kung ano na ho yung status no voters registration, pati na rin ho yung absentee voting, absentee,
Voters registration. Oh.
yung may biometrics.
Oh, tama ho yun. Because we announced that in May 6, last May 6, we started with the registration. We opened the registration. There are 4 aspects of registration. One ho, new registrants. Second ho, yung tinatawag natin delisted or deactivated, who has to be reactivated. Second one, the second are transferee voters. At panghuli, which is the mandatory biometrics. Meaning, we computed that there were 9.6 million that is still under the old listing, which are not yet under the biometric system. And considering that there is the new law already requiring that you cannot vote in 2016 unless you're under the biometrics registration, our drive is actually focused towards the 9.6 million who are not yet registered under the biometrics.
Pero
Yun ang-
napansin ko ho dun sa 2015 NEP nyo, wala na hong zero yung allocation for resumption of continuing registration.
Oo, tinanggal ho yun. Kasi nandun na dapat ang budget namin. Kaya nga ho yun ang sinasabi namin na wala nga yung continuing registration eh. Pero okay lang ho yun. Sasagutin na namin yung kwan. Basta makahabol lang ho namin yung 9.6.
Hindi, pero kung zero ho yung amount, hindi nyo ho pwede i-augment yun.
Kailangan mo ng bahay, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, tama yun. Kailangan nga pala. That's correct.
And the same ho with
Hihingi dapat, oo.
absentee.
Hihingi nga kami talaga sa inyo, sa committee, ng
Pati
line
rin ho
item
yung
for that.
napansin ko ho din yung resumption of OAV registration.
Overseas, hihingi
Wala
rin ho
din
kami.
hong budget.
Hindi ho kami hihingi ng dagdag sa aming budget. All that we're going to ask is realign some portions of the ISSP, which is quite substantial. Bigyan niyo lang ho kami ng tig-1 million.
Mr. Chairman, I have no problems doing that. I did that for COMELEC in 2014.
That's correct.
But most of you are lawyers. In light of the DAP decision of the Supreme Court, in particular, please take note of the utilization of DAP for the project NOAA. Particularly, in-specify ng Supreme Court sa decision po niya, 0 PS, 500 million for MOE, 0 CO. In-augment through savings ng executive branch to the tune of 1.6 billion additional for a total of 2.1. Nagkaroon ng allocation bigla ang PS, nagkaroon ng allocation bigla ang CO. Ang sabi ng Supreme Court, you cannot do that. In other words, they defined an item to mean an allocation class and not simply a PAP. So kung wala kayong item to begin with for PS or CO at MOE lang at biglang magkakaroon, if you read the language of the decision, hindi pwede. And secondly, Supreme Court also said, defining naman the word augment, how can you augment an item by 300%? The original allocation was 500 million. And then you made it 1.6 billion. That's no longer augmentation. When you say augment, pinupunuan mo lang yung kulang. So augmentation, according to the court in that decision, cannot be, if you would interpret it strictly, to the tune of over 300%. I would interpret it cannot be more than 100% of what was allocated. So kindly consider and read that decision as well, because you might be affected by kung 1 million lang, you augment mo ng 500 million, baka questionin din po yun in light. Again, although it's not yet final, but it will be soon enough. Unless it is changed, that would effectively tie down your hands dun sa bahay-bahay na pinag-uusapan natin.
binili ho namin yung savings naman na pag-government namin. Wala naman.
Savings din naman ho ng executive yun eh. I mean, the ruling pertain to the executive The ruling pertain to the executive. Again, kindly go over it as well just to make sure. Hindi, kung sarili nilang savings. Iba pa yung cross-border issue.
Tama, iba pa ho yun.
Ito, ginamit ng executive yung savings niya para pondohan ng DOST within the executive. No issue on cross-border. But the issue of item, what's an item? Is it a PAP or an allocation class? Or an augmentation, hindi pwede daw 300% eh. Kung 1 million na bahay na naman lang ang bibigay ko sa inyo, tas for OAV or for continuing registration, you'll spend about 500 million, for example. That's times, di ba?
Over 1,000%.
5,000%. Baka hindi ho po pwede No, again, kindly look at it again, review it, and tell me if my interpretation of it is correct.
Namin under the fiscal autonomy namin eh. Kasi yun ang iba sa executive eh. Baka
Mr. Chair?
mayroong konting difference.
True, kindly look at
Ginawa
it and
na ho
advise us
namin kasi
accordingly.
yun. Ang worry ko ngayon kasi nagawa na namin yun in the past where we asked for a small amount to purchase.
For the building, for the
Yeah,
warehouse.
no, for the land.
For the
Hindi
land,
pa ho
right.
yung building. Yung land, binigyan lang ho kami ng 1 million but we purchased it
Pero
for
wala
1
pong
billion.
nag-question eh.
1 billion.
That was pre-DAP, and nobody
That's correct.
questioned.
That's correct. Tama ho yan.
Now, I think the Supreme Court actually decided on the use of savings and they defined, some of them pertain to gaps in legislation. But insofar as these two items are concerned, I think they interpreted the Constitution. When the Constitution made mention of the word item, when it made mention of the word savings, and when it made mention of the word augment, I think they actually interpreted those three words as used in the Constitution, so it might apply to all of us. Just look into it, sir, and advise us accordingly. At least eyes wide open ho kayo, at eyes wide open tayong lahat, if at all.
Fiscal autonomy rin ng Supreme Court eh, kaya bumagaya lang kami sa kanila.
Chairman, di ba nag-budget call naman kayo sa DBM? Tama ho, di ba? And anong dahilan kung bakit hindi nila nilagyan ng amount itong OAV registration, resumption of continuing registration? Kasi parang ang dating ho, ayaw nilang madagdagan yung boboto for 2016. So, did they give you a reason why walang amount?
So actually, maski in the past, they've been giving it to DFA rather than to us. Kasi coordinated ang trabaho namin eh, with DFA.
Pagdating ho din sa OAV, pero
Para
yung
bang mas tiwala sila sa DFA kaysa sa amin. Sa
pero yung
registration,
continuing
hindi.
registration ho, talagang zero. So parang ayaw nilang may magre-rehistro for 2016.
Tama ko yun.
May we ask Assistant Director De La Vega? We have a DBM representative here. May we know if you know, ma'am, if you know. Oh, wag mo sabihing may savings naman sila, yun na lang ang gamitin nila. What was the logic and reason behind not including an item?
Sir, it's not included in the locally funded projects, but these are regular operations and mandate of the COMELEC. So it's in their operations budget
MOE.
under MFO
Tama yun.
1.
So chargeable sa MOE nila.
Yeah, it's the 1.4 billion that you're earlier talking about.
Yun. Yun yung para dito. OAV,
OAB,
Continuing registration.
continuing registration. That's under their PAP. There are 2 line items for those. It's PAP under letter D and letter E.
so kasama yun sa conduct and supervision of elections?
Yes, sir. And then also monitoring and implementation on the conduct of election and other political exercises, including development measures to improve registration
Yun yung
and other election systems. Sa baba.
So doon nakalagay po.
Yes, sir. It's under 2 items. That's MFO 1 under activity 1.D and 1.E.
Mr. Chairman, agree?
Hindi ako clear, no? Kasi nagkaroon kami ng problema with DBM when we talk about recall eh. nagkaroon na kami ng sagutan ng konti dyan where we said, wala ko kaming pera for recall, pero they were citing exactly the same provision
Na meron.
na meron dahil nga yung general provision on supervision and administration of elections, plebiscite,
Can I not
report,
unbundle this 1.4 and specify it for that purpose? Can you give us a breakdown of that?
Yeah. Oho.
Can you give us a breakdown of that, sir? Itong 1.4 na to for conduct and supervision of elections, referendum, recall, recall votes, and plebiscites. Ano yung pangalawang item, ma'am?
Sir, it's
What page?
under
The one immediately before?
yes.
Monitoring the
Monitoring
implementation on conduct of elections totaling... Magkano ang total nito, ma'am? Ito yung...
11.6.
Ito na ba yung 11.6 billion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Hindi naman kasama yung OAV dun sa 11.6 eh.
Yes, sir, but
1.4.
Sa 1.4 pwede.
Titingnan nyo ho yun, meron ko kami, binigay ang DBM, binigyan kami ng registration sa Kabataan Barangay.
But
For
not
registration.
for 2016.
Hindi, para dito sa darating na eleksyon sa February, nakaset ho yan under the old...
In
under-
2015.
Yes. Binigyan ho kami for registration. Meaning, that is a special, considered special project. Hindi ho kasama yan doon sa general provision. Kung pag-uusapan natin ng registration sa OAB, the same category as registration of...
Give us a breakdown, sir, of the 1.4 and give us a breakdown as well of your proposed budget for OAV and continuing registration.
Siguro pag dagdag lang, Chair, nakasulat ho dito kasi you asked for a Bangsamoro plebiscite. Wala rin ho siya. So, do we assume na walang plebisito na magaganap?
Wala ho, pero lalagay na siguro nila doon sa basic law.
Kasi may iba hong agencies nang hihingi na dun sa implementation ng Bangsamoro.
No, it's possible, as the chair pointed out, that they will put the appropriation
In the law itself, in the basic law itself.
In the law
That
itself,
was more
appropriating money for the conduct of the plebiscite. Kasi baka nga namang sa tagal mag-submit, baka nga namang hindi pa umabot, buti nang sa batas na lang siguro ilagay kaysa ibigay sa COMELEC tapos maging savings ng COMELEC, yun yata yung ayaw ng DBM. Tama ba yan, Assistant Director De La Vega?
that's
Malamang.
basically the consideration, sir.
On charter change, will the answer be the same? Wala, but therefore the resolution calling for it will include it too? Ano ba yan?
Kumbaga, Chairman, pwede ho ba yung ganong senaryo?
Or can the people say, since there is no allocation for... Actually, hindi naman charter change, the plebiscite if at all, referendum rather. Na wala nang charter change, wala nang referendum for any charter change next year.
Depende ho, yung plebiscito ang problema. Kasi charter change can be, if we convert Congress into a constituent assembly, wala hong problema masyado. But if we create a constitutional commission, there will be an election
But
first.
either way, there will be a referendum.
Either way, there will be a referendum. So kailangan ho. And I think, hindi ko alam. Wala ho siguro. Wala kaming budget for a charter change.
But would the answer be the same even if there is no budget here? The resolution or whatever approving and calling for one can include the budget?
Hindi ho, masyadong malaki.
Parang Bangsamoro.
There has to be a resolution coming from Congress.
So the 7 billion that
Bigyan na
you,
lang ng appropriation for 7 billion.
the 7 billion that you proposed is not the referendum. It's for an election for a constitutional convention.
No. It is for the referendum, nationwide referendum.
Nationwide referendum pala yan.
Oo.
Hindi kon-kon to.
Hindi o
Con-as to.
Kuno, dalawang gastos yan eh. May election muna, tapos magkakaroon pa ng referendum.
So even in your mind, kon-as to if ever, not kon-kon. You didn't even propose for it eh.
We did not propose for us holding a constitutional convention because if we hold this in 2015, that will be in conflict with our
In your
preparation for 2016.
experience or knowledge as an election lawyer, Chairman Brillantes, can the resolution approved by Congress through CONAS, appropriate money for a referendum?
Hindi ho po pwede.
So we need to pass a separate law if we want to do it?
Separate law, yes.
But if there are enough votes to the tune of 3/4 to approve it and submit a question to the people, I presume there will be enough votes too to approve a law appropriating funds.
Yes. If there will be a constitutional convention, wala akong problema. But if there is none, and it's a mere question of converting it into a constituent assembly, then both houses could come out with it, converting itself into a constituent assembly and then appropriating funds for it. Para
Yeah.
hong Pinas.
Do you have enough savings to do this?
Wala ho. 7 billion.
So unless Congress passes a law, you cannot do it.
We cannot. In fact, we cannot even have an initiative.
Sige, since
Recall.
pag-uusapan na nga yung term extension, tapos lately meron pang no election scenario, di ba? Going by that... Hindi yung isa, sino ba nagka-slip of the tongue? So going by that reasoning, is it possible din ho na no election scenario for 2016? Kung magpasa ho ng resolution, pwede ba magpasa yung resolution din ng Congress na moving it or...
Hindi po pwede. Aywan ko. Hindi po pwede. Constitutional o yan eh. If there is no election in 2016, wala rin holdover. We'll have a big problem. Wala naman din, bawal din ang holdover. Even a presidency.
So malabo ho yung mas
Malabo ho,
mas
no
doable ho sa kanila yung ano na lang term extension than a no election scenario.
I doubt whether you can pass a law extending the term of office. Constitutional amendment pa rin yun. May bawal ho sa Constitution yun eh. Talagang walang term extension unless you amend the Constitution itself.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just a few more additional points, Mr. Chair. Can you give us the solution for recall? I know it's a year before the next coming election, so you have 5 more months, in theory, 5 more months for next year.
Just at first is for the proponents of a recall election to ask for a supplemental. Pero mahirap na ho siguro yun.
Pero kung maglalagay po kami ng item dito for 2015, is
Linagay
there
na ho
still
namin.
time to
Humingi
do
na
it?
kami.
Hindi binigay.
Hindi binigay. Oh.
But we can specify it coming from the 1.4.
May hirapan na ho tayo. Kasi ang cut-off niyan would be May. 2 months before for the preparation. May ho ang deadline.
So,
You cannot have any recall election anymore.
but in
beyond
theory, you
1
have
year.
3 months.
Mahaba ho ang proseso ng recall eh. We'll have to go into verification process.
But my problem is, Mr. Chairman, is under the law it says a year before, a year after, and a year before.
Tama ho yan.
I don't think we can shorten that period, however unrealistic it may be. The law says a year before, and a year after, and a year before. So effectively, we're shortening the window.
May 9 ang 16 ang election sa May 6, 2016. May 9, so you move 1 year before, that would be about May 9 of 2015. Pero may preparasyon ho before you hold the elections in May 9. The elections has to be conducted before.
I won't belabor the point. Can you just submit to us, sir, just for my information and reference, ilang nababawas dun sa 1-year window for recall? It's a 1-year window, essentially, di ba? 1 year after, 1 year before.
2
Ilan
months
yung nababawas? 2 months.
In 2
So
months
essentially, you're only talking of a 10-month window. Tama po?
Tama ho.
So next year, may 3 months pa tayo in theory.
In theory. Oh.
In theory. May makakaabot po ba o wala?
Depende ho sa laki. Let's say if the one asking for recall is Puerto, baka sakali, tingnan natin kung
Bulacan,
hindi
hindi.
yung verify. Pero Bulacan is also asking, which is the province. It's a very big province. Malaki ho ang mga voters niyan. Ang percentage niya ng pumirma, malaki rin. So it will take time for the verification process.
Do you have a time and motion estimate of how long it will take to verify X thousand of voters? May ganun ba kayo?
Meron ho kami dati, pero let me just point out that right now, ang concentration namin is the preparation of the 2016.
Agree. Pero lahat
So,
naman ho tayo
para
may
secondary lahat ito eh, sa amin.
Opo. Pero
Hanggat po pwede, wag na. Ngayon, if we allow a recall for one, then mapupuno ho kami ng recall. Ang dami pa ho nakaabang eh.
I agree. You know, even if I sympathize with you and understand where you're coming from, my problem is what the law says. That a fighting chance has to be given to these people in accordance with law, given that window of 1 year, whether you're looking at an election in 2016 or not, the law did not distinguish naman na sinabing pag mag-e-election na, di ba, nabisi na kayo. I mean, that window still has to be there. Whether you actually do it or not, umabot man o hindi, it's a different story. You would be the ones answerable to that, at least not us, because at least we allocated money for it. If at all, it will be
Tama.
savings if you can't use it.
If you'll give us the money, then we have no choice but to conduct the recall elections.
Precisely. Sige po, pakipag-aralan na rin po yung pinag-usapan natin kaninang Supreme Court decision, how you can manage with that seeming limitation on the definition of item, savings, and augmentation.
Pero Mr. Chairman, another option is for the Finance Committee to put an amount. Tama ho ba?
We can. We can.
Siguro, Chairman, baka you can give us a reasonable amount na hindi naman aabot na katulad dun sa nangyari sa DAP.
Please, no, submit to us the amounts needed for OAV, for continuing registration, for recall. Huwag na nating sama yung Bangsamoro charter change, dati namang wala. Both from the 1.4 billion and on top of that.
Sa recall doon, nandun na yung proposal namin, yung tinanggal, which is I think 321.
321.
321, that's correct.
That's for how many?
10.
Anong size?
Kasi yung nakapending eh. Malaki oh. Puerto
Baka mamaya 10, pero pag Bulacan pa lang, kalahati na yun.
Wala ko naman kami nakikitang provincial except Bulacan.
So the rest, you're talking municipalities and cities.
Municipalities and cities.
Can you give us the breakdown of the 21 as well, sir?
Cagayan de Oro yata ho, meron dyan eh.
Pakisubmit po sa amin yung breakdown ng 21. Anong 321?
Sige.
One more point on overspending. There's only one person thus far disqualified. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Emilio Jose Ejercito. Emilio Ramon Jose Ejercito.
Just out of curiosity, but sana una?
There was a case filed against him by Egay San Luis, Your Honor, on election day itself.
On the election date itself?
Yes, before proclamation.
Any other pending cases on overspending?
If there would be any other cases, Your Honor, it will be more of an election offense rather than a disqualification case because all candidates have been proclaimed already, Your Honor.
So siya lang yung may disqualification case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Wala nang iba?
Wala.
So wala nang madi-disqualify between now and...
2016.
So sa pagalingan ng abogado lang, nakalamang yung kalaban ni Governor Ejercito?
Hindi, yung
evidence.
ebidensya.
Hindi, siya lang ang nag-file eh.
Tama ho yun.
Siya lang, walang iba nag-file eh.
Siya nakapag-file before
Next
the
elections,
proclamation.
marami na ho magpa-file niyan. Pwede pala eh.
Before proclamation dapat para ho bumagsak sa
Huwag niyo nung paalala, baka marami talagang gumawa.
Hindi ho naman, pero para maliwanag lang ho. After the elections, pwede ho naman pailan ng kriminal at pwede rin ho ma-disqualify once you get convicted.
After conviction na.
Oho.
Ito, after COMELEC decision without a TRO, it's executory. That's the difference.
That's correct. Administrative lang ho. Findings lang ng COMELEC ito eh. Applying Section 68. Pag nag-overspend ka, tanggal ka.
So, after the elections but before proclamation, can you file a case for disqualification on the basis of overspending before the elections?
Oh,
Presumably you can, right?
Yes, Your
it's
Honor.
still before proclamation, which means before proclamation could be
Before the elections.
Start of the campaign period up to before proclamation.
You can immediately file a case for disqualification.
Bakit nung kay Egay San Luis when he filed it, I think was before the elections.
Before the elections pa po finalan. You think it's time for Congress to adjust the amounts for spending per voter?
Yes, Your Honor.
What would be a reasonable amount to your mind?
There has been proposals, Your Honor, for some ranging from 30 pesos per candidate to 20 pesos per candidate, no?
Per voter?
Per voter, Your Honor. But what we feel is that there should be a similar to a regional tripartite board. There should be it will be adjusted every elections because taking into consideration the consumer price index, the inflation, there should be a body who will study that. So it's flexible. But
Question. How much is it now, sir?
For with political party, it's 3 pesos.
Without?
Without 5 pesos per voter.
Alin yung 10?
President, Your Honor. President.
For President,
Vice President.
Vice, and anyone running or being elected at large?
No, Your Honor. All others is 3 or 5 pesos, Your Honor.
Senator, 3 pesos.
Yes, Your Honor.
Political party,
5 pesos.
political party, 5.
Yes.
Individual senator, mayor, governor, down the line, it's 3 pesos.
No party, 5 pesos.
No party, 5 pesos.
With party, 3 pesos.
With party, 3 pesos. President, vice president, regardless of party affiliation, 10.
Yes.
Tama
Your
ba?
Honor.
You're suggesting 20 for...
These are the bills that have been pending in Congress already, Your Honor. Some with the House, some with also with the Senate, Your Honor. We're suggesting is more equitable in the sense that it will be based on a per region basis. Like if you look at Spratlys, there are only 316 voters. So if you multiply it by 3 pesos, that's about 900 pesos for the entire campaign. No? So it may be, you may want to increase it to 50 pesos per voter, but it will not be the same as in, let's say, in Manila, wherein you want to maintain a 10 pesos per voter because considering the large volume of the voter population. So it has to be adjustable and flexible, Your Honor.
On a per election basis, nag-adjust tayo?
Yes, Your Honor.
Hmm?
Parang it's not only the COMELEC who decides, Your Honor. We would suggest also the Department of Trade and Industry to sit in part of the board. So, or maybe you want the DOL to sit in, so to factor in also wages, Your Honor.
So ano yun, Mr. Chair, para ayun yung ipako yung amount. So kunwari, after every 3 years, we come out with another, or after every 6 years.
Kasi po, no, the basis for the 3 pesos, 5 pesos is Republic Act 7691, which was passed in 1991. So imagine mo, gaano katagal yung Congress takes it to amend. So if you wait for Congress to amend it every 3 years, medyo hindi mangyayari yon.
With the 3 pesos and the 10 pesos, magkano ho yung pwedeng gastusin for 2016?
Let's say
Kunwari,
for President at 10 pesos at 56 million voters, that's 560. Tapos for senators times with party, about 150.
Yung sa President ba, hindi kasama yung party din doon?
Hiwalay pa yung party.
Actually, 158. 168 rather. 56 eh.
Yes.
56 times 3, 168 million.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move ko to increase. I move to submit the budget of the COMELEC.
Subject to the suggestions and points raised during the committee deliberations as well as submissions required by the chair and by the committee, the budget of the COMELEC for 2015 is hereby approved and submitted to plenary. So ordered. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Commissioners, good morning. Hearing suspended for a minute, during which time may we request the CHR family to kindly situate themselves in the panel headed by Chairperson Etta Rosales.